Good afternoon. Welcome to episode 21 of Duval Rundown. We're here to celebrate a Jaguars win today. Jacksonville just wrapped up a 32-16 win at Wembley Stadium over the New England Patriots and rookie quarterback Drake May. Mia O'Brien is here to break it all down with us. We got Hacker popping up too. I think we'll get Tommy McManus on at some point. And so let's get going. My first reaction kind of was that Trevor Lawrence was the real deal. This is the best game of his career in terms of total expected points added, which is kind of like the king just context stat in the NFL. And I wrote a piece for Big Cat Country during the offseason that showed Trevor's success rate and the team record based on his success rate, and basically saying the Jaguars go as Trevor goes. And we saw that today. It felt like the Jaguars really were in a rhythm offensively for most of the day. And I feel like that was mostly because Trevor was in a rhythm. And so that was kind of my just first takeaway, but let's hear from you guys. What are your first thoughts after Jacksonville's second win of the season?
I'll take your point, Gus, and I will raise you, especially since all of our adoring listeners in our YouTube comments are saying it. I will raise you, Tank Bigsby. In the same vein, though, I believe that part of what leads to a high success rate for Trevor Lawrence is a strong run game. The Jaguars, and this will be the headliner wherever you go in Duval. I don't believe it will be the headliner nationally unless it's a means to kind of backhanded compliment Trevor. The Jaguars ran the ball 17 straight plays in the second half of this ball game. The national media will tell you that's because they don't trust Trevor Lawrence. Local media will tell you it is because of a strong run game that then Trevor Lawrence has a multidimensional offense at his disposal, and he can operate at peak efficiency. And that goes for any young quarterback, whether he's a 25-year-old in his fourth season or not. I think one grossly underrated storyline when everyone gave Trevor this generational moniker coming out of college, one storyline that was grossly underrated is the reality that he had the ACC's all-time leading rusher in the backfield at Clemson with him. A big reason why Trevor Lawrence was Trevor Lawrence at Clemson was because of Travis Etienne. Today, he didn't have Travis Etienne, still had a strong run game though. A guy by the name of Tank Bigsby, who this time last year, a lot of people had left for dead, who said we were crazy, Hacker, for talking about what a great offseason program he had. And here he is topping the century mark for the second time in 3 weeks. So for me, that 17 straight run plays in the second half not only will be the storyline and what's remembered from this game, but I also think it's a sign of, for lack of a better term, the offensive coaching staff coming together and saying, it's okay to just keep running it if it's working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Whatever it took to get a win, right? It's a win. That's all that matters. They did what they did to get a win. Brian Thomas Jr., Bigsby, clearly the stars. And I'll tell you guys this, too. Responded to some adversity. Look, 10-0. Things weren't going their way. And we've seen the team just curl up in a ball and die in situations like that in the past. But no, they came back with 25 consecutive points, the longest punt return in the history of the Jacksonville Jaguars with Parker Washington. That kind of ended the game to me. Although, I'll just say one negative thing real quick. I got to have one negative thing as we start here. What are you doing not kicking a field goal up 25-10? I mean, what are you doing? It would have been a three-possession game. The game's over. If you kick a 25-yard field goal and the Patriots drive right down and score, and inexplicably Mayo goes for 2, he should have gone for 1 to make it 25-17, and then it's a lot more interesting with 2 minutes to go. Anyway, luckily we don't have to harp on that. But it's a win, which I guess is the nicest thing I can say about today's performance.
No, I was thinking the same thing. It was honestly a little bit of deja vu back to the Colts game, right, where it felt like it was completely wrapped up in the third quarter. And then all of a sudden, here comes the opposing team. Here comes Drake May finding Hunter Henry just down the middle of the field. And then all of a sudden, Kayshon Boutte gets a 35-yard reception. And then all of a sudden, they're in the end zone. And it's could have been a one-score game, but fortunately, they didn't make the 2-point attempt. And then the Jags kind of just ended it from there. But yeah, Jags are going to jag. It feels like definitely wasn't a clean game. But as you said at the beginning, like it was definitely good for them to be able to get out of a 10-0 hole and rattle off, 25 points in a row. So that was certainly encouraging. What do you guys think from Walker Little's performance? Because Cam Robinson left the game midway through with a concussion, and Walker Little stepped in. And obviously the running game continued to have a lot of success. And I don't think it was necessarily because of Walker Little, but because of Cam Robinson going out. But still, I think like the whole point of Walker Little getting a chance to play is that he can do most of what Cam Robinson can do at just a fraction of the cost. And I think that's kind of what we saw today.
I think what's extremely encouraging, Gus, is that the knock on Walker Little throughout the course of his career has been that he is a dancing ballerina, dancing bear, whatever the term you want to use. He is a pass blocking specialist, that he is not a mauler in the run game. Joe Thomas pointed it out multiple times on the NFL Network broadcast today. More than once, Tank Bigsby was sprung for a massive gain, or Dearness Johnson was sprung for a massive gain because of Walker Little, because of the combination of Ezra Cleveland at left guard and Walker Little at left tackle. As Cam Robinson has said time and time again, it's so important for that five to work together and work as one. So the fact that Walker Little was able to come in and the Jaguars offensive line didn't miss a beat, I know that there will be those critics who say, well, it's because it was against a piss poor defensive front for the New England Patriots that's depleted, that's beat up, that doesn't have dudes. But ultimately, the fact that you saw less penalties, the operation looked smooth, efficient, for the most part, looked like every single player was on the same page. That, for me, spoke volumes. And I'm curious to see, obviously, we hope Cam's okay. Concussions are certainly a serious problem in any sport, in any walk of life, but certainly in the National Football League. And so we will see what happens. But I think it was a very, very encouraging performance from Walker Little that not only suggests should he receive more playing time if Cam can't go, or even if Cam is available over the next few weeks, but also what happens long term with both guys in contract years.
Absolutely. What did you see from Walker, Hacker, and was there anyone else that stood out in your eyes? Because we already named Trevor and Tank, obviously, but I thought there was a lot of good performances today that we could go through. Oh, looks like Hacker is frozen.
He may have lost Hack. Oh, he lost Hack.
I'm just going to keep him up here.
This may have to be the thumbnail for today. Oh, there he is.
Oh, he's fighting through. Oh, man.
They're fighting through the blocks. All right, we'll let Hacker try to address his Wi-Fi. Oh, there he is. He's still a little pixelated. Oh, okay. Hack, we'll let you know that your Wi-Fi is struggling. Let's get to a couple more off of our comments, Gus. I see Reedy wants to know what was going on with Tyson. He didn't see him for a long time. I know a couple of you guys did tweet me, did text, did ask, like, hey, like, what's going on? All I can tell you is that Tyson Campbell was in the second half. You saw him almost pick off Drake May in his first game back from that hamstring injury. I think that if not for a great PBU by, I think it was KJ Osborne was the receiver, if not for a great pass breakup by him, Tyson Campbell has a pick six in his first game back, which is extremely encouraging. My guess, Reedy, without having spoken to Ryan Nielsen since the game occurred, is that they were keeping him on some sort of pitch count. What's interesting, Gus, is that earlier in the week we heard Doug Peterson say, well, they would love to spell Darby. When I asked him to evaluate Ronald Darby's performance over the last few weeks, he said that they would love to spell him now with Tyson coming back and get Monteric Brown onto the football field. They certainly did that, but once again, it was the hockey shifts that I know so many people are big fans of here in Jacksonville. Not that we're not a hockey town, but we're a massive hockey town. Yes, we love the Jacksonville Icemen. But yeah, Rick Nielsen, thank you, Robert. Look, again, and I think this is going to be the other big storyline coming out of this game, Gus. Are the Jaguars finding something, or was this a byproduct of playing a bad football team? That's ultimately, I think, what a lot of people are going to have to say over the course of the next 7 days. Yeah,
it's definitely a lot easier to break off 17 consecutive runs when you're going against arguably the worst team in the NFL. The Patriots, I feel like, are on the clock basically right now for the first overall pick in April. And so it'll be interesting.
I think they're okay with, by the way. Gerard Mayo seemed to indicate like that's a good thing.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to talk about with the quote-unquote hockey rotations in the defensive backfield was also we saw just another big shift, which was Darnell Savage starting at safety, right, in place of Antonio Johnson. And Antonio still got a decent amount of snaps in, kind of similar to Monteric spelling Tyson, where it's not like Antonio was just benched for the entire game. But you saw Savage get the start at strong safety alongside Andre Sisco. And then Jarian Jones was the main man out of the slot. And so Hacker is still hanging out with us.
And we got Tommy back, too. Can we get a 2-for-1?
Hacker, let's go to you first since we cut you off a little bit earlier. So and your thoughts whether it's on Walker Little or the defensive backfield rotations.
Well, it goes to show you what depth on the offensive line will do, right? I mean, you could do a lot worse than your swing tackle against Walker Little. He came in very well. Hopefully Cam is okay, but I thought Walker Little was good. Anytime you run the ball 17 consecutive times, I mean, the offensive line was getting it done. Now, they played a team that's very bad. I mean, let's be honest. The New England Patriots are probably the worst team in football. To me, what the Jaguars accomplished today, not only getting their second win, was the Jaguars know they're not the worst team, right? They're better than New England, which may be the worst team. That's why, to me, it's a win. It's a W. It's much better than the alternative. But there's a lot of things you got to clean up before Green Bay and Philadelphia and Minnesota. It's going to get a lot tougher over the next month or so.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a pretty brutal schedule, honestly, because, again, they did play the kind of weak-link Patriots today, but as Hacker just said, it's definitely not getting easier as a whole anytime soon. Tommy, welcome in. What did you see from the defensive backfield between like all the moving pieces with Tyson returning, Savage being at safety, etc.?
Well, first of all, good afternoon, everybody. I'm a little scruffy. My older girls had me out at Pete's till about 1 o'clock last night. Mama is out of town, so after I'm done here, I'll be doing a quick clean up the house, get it ready. She'll be back around 6 o'clock.
This is why people tune into the Duval Rundown instant reaction show, by the way, because you never know what you're going to walk into, especially with our quad box.
I'll just say it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And look, I agree with what you're saying. New England's not very good, but let's take the victory, man. I think it's a really good thing. I saw more fire today. I saw some fight. I saw some extra pushing by our offensive linemen after plays. You know, a little bit of nastiness, a little bit of grittiness. Like Hack said, if you can run the ball that many times, you're imposing your will. You're basically kicking their ass up and down the field. So why stop it? I liked what they did in the secondary. I thought it was a good move. It just seemed a little bit better. I'm still concerned. I mean, look, Drake May has time. Drake May throws the ball pretty nice, and he puts it in there pretty good. You know, they did some things too. I thought we were going to let him back in. I'm like, please do not let this team back in. But we ended up putting the clamps down, and Trayvon coming up big. And look, man, I think it's a good thing. I'll tell you this: there's no quit. I didn't see any quit in this team. I thought they came out and they really wanted to win this ball game. Now, here's the deal, right? When we beat Indy, I think they thought they had arrived. Well, they didn't, as we saw what the Bears did to them. Now, you look at this game, they got to keep it in perspective. Look, a win's always better than a loss, and it's hard to win the NFL. I don't care what the record is of the other team, and you do got a big stretch, but let's use this momentum, keep it in perspective. I like the fire. I like the attitude. It wasn't perfect, but you know what? They took care of business today, so I'm happy for the organization, and I'm happy for the guys. I thought Walker Little played very, very well. I've been hard on him. I think he came together with a nice little bit of attitude today, blocked really well in the run game. So, yeah, you know, look, again, keep it in perspective, but we'll take, you know, pretty much a thumping of the Pats today, 32-16.
And real quick, guys, because I'm going to run off the fifth quarter is going to be coming up here in a little bit. Dave Campo, Leon Searcy, and myself. I know you guys are going to talk about this. I just wanted to throw it out there. When ETN comes back healthy, how is he running back one over Tank Bigsby? I mean, there's a conversation there, man. I understand draft positioning, and I understand one guy's a first rounder and one guy's a third rounder, but let's cut the bull at 2 and 5. And Dave Campo has been mentioning this for a while. Tommy, I think you've mentioned this as well when we were out at training camp. Tank Bigsby right now, is he not running back one on this team even when ETN's back? Now, I like Travis. And I think, I mean, you could have a Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery type situation.
Right.
Something like that. Maybe it's 1 and 1A. But this Tank Bigsby 17 snaps last week and ETN and Dearness Johnson have double that. That's over. You got to have Bigsby on that field, man.
Yeah, I honestly, to me, it doesn't even really matter who starts because I know that they want to get both of them going as much as they can and just like have them each rely on each other, almost like what you're saying, where Detroit has kind of like that two-headed backfield. And so that's what the Jags have been trying to get ever since they've drafted Bigsby, honestly. But even when it was Travis Etienne and James Robinson, that was a pretty nice duo for like the 5 games that they were healthy together. And so I think that like there's people commenting in the comments asking if ETN is going to get traded or if he's going to go to the Cowboys. And I know that Mike Florio did put put out that report last week. But I think that the Jags are still very much interested in having ETN come back healthy, be a big part of their offensive plans. Even if Bigsby does end up getting the start going forward or getting a little bit more touches going forward. I mean, you still saw a lot of Dearness Johnson today too, which is mostly because Tank Bigsby just is not trusted at all on a lot of passing downs, especially in pass protection. And so I think that's one area where ETN can kind of get that role back because he's not really great in pass protection either, but he is definitely the best pass catcher that the Jaguars have in their backfield. And so, yeah, I understand that Bigsby had an amazing day and he probably does deserve to start. But to me, like, don't forget about Travis Etienne and don't just say, oh, let's ship him off to the Cowboys for a day 3 pick. I think he's still going to be a very important part of this offense for the rest of the year.
And better yet, if I may, since there are those of you in the chat that are saying it's one game against arguably the worst team in the National Football League,
Yep.
Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated did tweet out during this game as the Jaguars were mounting that second quarter comeback that it was very evident. I'm going to make sure I read the exact tweet from Albert because I don't want him to be taken out of context. But essentially saying that Trevor Lawrence, not the problem today. Trevor Lawrence looks pretty darn good. And regardless of how this thing goes, as I pull it up now, that could be enticing not only for a turnaround, but also, as Albert calls it, a carrot to land a big-time coach for the team after the season. And so that is where I look at Travis Etienne. And I would say, Tommy, he's just as much of a carrot, expected to play on the 5th-year option next year. You could tag him. If things were going well, that's the conversation we would be having. You would tag him until you have his services for another 2+ years. And so I would think it's a very interesting situation. And look, we're coming off of a victory and the focus is on victory. But I don't think you could be so quick to dismiss all of these pieces on this team, even if you believe that today is just a byproduct of playing an inferior opponent and you want to ship and trade and find draft picks to then start this thing over.
Right.
If there's a new regime to come in, I'm not so sure that they're going to look at this roster and say it needs to be blown up.
No, I don't think so either. But then again, you never know, right? Because a new coach or a new GM, not my guys, they want their guys. We're not even there yet, which is a good thing. Real quick, I thought Trevor, the way he ran the ball, he looked more confident today. Maybe it was the competition, I don't know. But even he had some, I don't know, like even last week, the way he ran, it was kind of like on eggshells almost. Today it seemed more definitive. He knew what he was going to do. He took off. He just looked really good, in my opinion. Look, with Tank and ETN, they're a very nice 1-2 punch. And Gus hit it on the head. If Tank could do what ETN does in the passing game, they'd probably trade ETN, but he can't. And you need that weapon in the passing game. And he's absolutely right. ETN's the best out of the 3 picking up the blitz. But I'd run his ass over even at my age. You know what I mean? And they do. They're not very good at it. They have to be better at that. But I like what Tank does. I think we saw it. I know all of us on here. You saw it in camp. It was more definitive, right? I mean, taking that one cut and going. He was seeing the field really well. He looked faster. Took it to the house. By the way, I didn't know Parker Washington had the Jets to take it to the house. Nice job, young man. That was a heck of a play. I mean, all 3 phases today, right? Again, you got to keep it in perspective, no doubt. But you know what? I'll take this kind of victory, and I'll take this W over obviously any kind of loss. But I'm feeling pretty good. Now that doesn't mean they're gonna, it's a turnaround. I don't know what Albert Breer's talking about, the turnaround. I mean, he's got like Jack said earlier, the stretch coming up is no joke. And it starts with Green Bay. That is no joke whatsoever. So, look, but if you play with that fire, did we see mental errors today? Did we see missed assignments today? I'm going to watch the tape in the morning at probably a couple in coverage. Devin Lloyd, great against the run. I mean, he's great, and he's a good blitzer. And then the pass comes, it's like kryptonite. And like, where do I go? Who do I have? And he doesn't know what the heck he's doing. It's unbelievable. Man, he is a thumper. He came to play today, but I still think you better be careful on coverage with him. Teams are going to go after him and try to exploit him in matchups with tight ends and whatnot. But, yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy for the team. And again, hopefully they can keep it in perspective. And what does it make you want to do when you win? You want to do more when you win because you taste the victory. And then you're like, okay, you know what? I will run that extra conditioning. You know what? I will put in the extra time on the film. I'll study a little bit more. I like this feeling. You know, our heads aren't in the sky. We beat a bad team, but you beat them, and you beat them decisively. So that says something about your team to a certain degree. Now take that energy, take that prep, come home safely, and then get ready for Green Bay because this stretch, like Hack said, is going to be quite the stretch next 4 or 5 games.
And I'll bring you guys in behind the curtain. Devin Lloyd's going to be our defensive player of the game on the 5th quarter. And the reason why is that I can't call it the Ventrell Miller Award because Ventrell Miller's gotten it like every week. He's clearly the defensive player they got. So that's another one. When Foye comes back, right? Foye deserves to be out there. Can Ventrell play in Devin Lloyd's spot? Tommy, you're the linebacker. You tell me. But, I mean, for the life of me, I don't know how you take 51 off the field and put 33 still out there when Foye comes back.
No, I agree. I think we got to, I don't know, when they go base, right now, it's Lloyd, Miller, and Muma. So I would think Muma's the odd guy out, and who do you put in that position? They'll have to figure out. I don't think Ventrell Miller should leave the field. Now, Foye, he's wicked smart, right? So he even in pass coverage, he knows where to go. He's really good at all that. He's been the dime backer. I don't know why Lloyd's the dime backer. I mean, typically the dime backer has the back out of the backfield or number 3, and they got a man to man for the most part. It's a really tough job, and Miller to me would be better for it. I think Miller could take over the mic. The only thing is, look, as bad as he is in coverage, Lloyd's really good against the run. He really is, man, and he thumps. So I don't necessarily want to take that out, but I think we got to figure out, on those nickel and dime packages, maybe get Lloyd into the rush somehow and let the other 2 cover. You know what I mean? But I don't want to take Lloyd totally out of the game. I think he does bring some physicalness. He does like to get up there and hammer. He's good on the blitz. I've been saying that since he got here, man. That A-gap blitz, he's very good at that. And he made a play today and hugging up, So he does some good things, but man, that liability in coverage. So I'd make sure on passing downs, he's rushing the passer and not covering anybody in the field.
So, Tommy, let me ask you this. I didn't think we'd pivot to the Devin Lloyd conversation so early on, but here we are, 23 minutes into the program. I know you joined us a little late, and we are excited to dive into the linebacker situation, knowing that Foye Oluokun will be eligible to come off of IR next week. And does Ventrell Miller leave the field? My good friend, the one, the only Phil up in Fernandina, tweeted, "Move Lloyd to blitzing Sam where he should have been all along. Very concerning. Fans on the couch can see this, and the defensive staff cannot." Is that where you think ultimately he lands? Because I don't think of a blitzing Sam linebacker as someone who is going to be beneficial to you in the run defense.
First of all, there's no blitzing Sam linebacker in base. You're Sam linebacker, and maybe they blitz you, but you do have to cover the tight end when you're a Sam. That's part of the deal. You do have to take that back out of the backfield. You were involved in coverage as a Sam. Yeah, you blitz. Yeah, you'll rush a passer. But there's no that's if you're blitzing Sam, that's just some mythical package. There's no such thing, I don't believe, as a blitzing Sam. Right. But I do like the idea of get him up into the rush somehow and let the other guys cover. Foye's look. If I have to pick 2, it's Foye and it's Ventrell Miller. And then I'm working some games with Lloyd up on the line of scrimmage. I've been saying this for weeks. We used to run this. Everyone remembers Joel Schmingy, right? That everyone remembers that defensive end we said. We used to run this bat package. Gus is saying no. He was like second or third in sacks all time, I think. Joel played a lot. He had a lot of sacks. He was a great player. The fans loved him. What's that, Heck?
That's a feel-old statement when you talk about Joel Schmingy. That was a long time ago, but I love that.
Well, let me get the reason I brought it up is there's a bat package, and he was the bat. It's a 3-man front with the bat, and the bat would run games with each different lineman on different downs, right? So he'd get up on next to the nose, and they'd work a game on the center and have the nose loop around, and then they'd both go. So I think Devin Lloyd could do that all day long on passing downs. I think he's really good. He's really long. He can get through. I see a lot of good things. So, but in coverage, no. Yeah, I like it. Look, play him in Sam on base. You could probably figure that out. Or keep him on Mike on base, Foye at will, and see if Miller can replace Muma. Muma's just basically playing an outside backer off the ball, reading the ball. He makes plays, but he's a liability too in coverage compared to what Ventrell Miller and Foye Oluokun bring to the table.
Yeah, someone was asking me about Devin Lloyd on Twitter earlier, saying like, "Oh, should we ship him off to somewhere where he can be in a downhill only thumper role?" And I was like, that doesn't exist. Like Tommy was just saying, even if you're a strong side Sam linebacker who's always on the line of scrimmage, like you're never only going forward as a linebacker. Like even we saw Josh Hines Allen drop into coverage today.
That was dumb. Like what in the hell is? I mean, why would he ever? You know what I mean? It's his own blitz. I know how that kind of play works, but why would you have 41 drop? Why would you have 41 or 44 ever drop?
No, that doesn't make sense to me. On the Patriots' first touchdown, Josh Hines Allen dropped into coverage when the Ryan Nielsen's Jags sent a blitz. And I mean, credit to Nielsen because that was one thing that Mia and I talked about on the Thursday preview shows that we wanted to see him get after Drake May more. And he did do that, especially like on late downs and in third down situations. But it's still inexcusable, even if you're sending a blitz, like maybe send it with the pass rusher that's top 10 in the league. And so speaking of number 44, I think Trayvon Walker definitely deserves his flowers, as someone in the chat was mentioning. I mean, he had a sack today. I feel like he's probably top 10 in sacks so far this year. And so
he got 6, so I'm pretty sure he is. I'm going to pull it up right now, Gus.
Yeah, he had a heck of a day. He's coming along great.
Yeah, you can see the development, it feels like almost week to week, where it's not like all of a sudden he's getting a bunch of different pass rush moves in his arsenal super quickly. But what he does do really well is kind of set up his power rush move very well. Everyone knows that he's very much a power rusher and uses his strength to his advantage. But it's not like he's just bulldozing the opposite every single time. He's really setting them up and like has a much better plan this year compared to last year and certainly the year before that. So Trayvon is definitely a player who's been flashing and gets credit for today.
I've been very high on Trayvon Walker. Let me leave you guys with this because I'm about to head to the radio station again. Probably 2:15, 2:30. Dave Campo, Leon Searcy, and myself will have the fifth quarter on 1010XL and 92.5 FM. I'm sure you guys will get to this. We'll probably get to it towards the end of our show, but it's certainly worth mentioning. The whole conversation about Balky and Peterson will be put to rest somewhat this week because of the win. But again, the week they trade Roy Robertson Harris to Seattle, right? Their second round pick is a healthy scratch for the second time in 7 games. What is that? I mean, that was shocking to me that Mason Smith didn't get out there. You mentioned mental mistakes, Tommy. A couple of offsides. Jordan Jefferson had one. Josh Allen had one. Overall, a very positive day. Look, I'm not trying to just pinpoint the negative. I'm just simply pointing out that you beat arguably the worst team in football. It's a win. You take it. It's certainly better than 5 of the 6 times we've done the Duval rundown here on the 1010XL, MyBookie platform. But when your second round pick is a healthy scratch again, the same week you trade somebody at his position, so you think there would be reps opening up.
Yeah.
That is a conversation piece moving forward. But you guys take care, and we'll do it again next week.
Right. Sounds good, Hack. Thank you for joining.
Hack.
I want to make sure to check out the fifth quarter with him, Coach Campo, and Leon Searcy. All right. Adios, Hacker.
As we take a look at Hacker's laptop, I do want to make a quick note as we bid adieu to Hacker. Like he mentioned, of course, the fifth quarter coming up on 1010XL at 2:15-ish. You also will be able to, of course, watch it on the MyBookie Digital Studio on YouTube, X, and Facebook for those of you who are joining us on YouTube, X, and Facebook right now. I did put a poll in our YouTube chat line. So if you are watching on Twitter or Facebook and want to head over to YouTube, who is RB1 when the Jaguars come back from London? About 50 of you guys have voted so far. 68% of you say Tank Bigsby is RB1. I did add a third option of why not both, which 26% of you have selected. I tend to be in that camp. I am very much in the mindset of if David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs can coexist and both be fed, why can't the Jags? I understand they just ran the ball 17 straight times on the New England Patriots. It was not 17 straight times on the Baltimore Ravens defense or the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. But the reality is that you were able to string the run game and several run plays together. And that says to me that if you were able to do it with Dearness Johnson and Tank Bigsby, I'm not saying that that should be your identity moving forward and you're just going to fabricate it out of nowhere, Tommy. But it does say to me that both of those guys can see a heavy load and this team can have success.
Yeah, and what it does is set up the play action pass for deep throws down the field. I mean, that's what a great running game running game does for an offense. And as a former backer, man, all it takes is a split second to bite on that run fake because they're running, they're pounding. You're expecting it. By the way, on that fourth down call, man, I'd love to see a play action. They're expected run, just pull it
Right.
out. Guy's going to be wide open. I don't care who you put out there, but they tried to jam it down the throats. It was working, and just maybe a little creativity there at the end. But that's what a running game does for you. So I agree. Listen, and I'm not. You guys aren't going to laugh, or you're going to be mad at me. But listen, let's give Urban Meyer a tiny bit of credit because he thought ETN was better of a wide receiver than a running back. And look, he's not better. I don't mean it like that, but he can play a little wide out for you. I mean, he can get in that slot. He can get out of the backfield. So I love ETN. Again, though, if Bigsby was more well-rounded as a fullback, full catching, blocking, and running, they may trade ETN. I mean, but that's not the case. So let's keep him with us, and hopefully he can get back healthy because we're going to need him. And, man, get him one-on-one on backers. You know what I mean? He's a nightmare to cover in the open field. And it doesn't have to be these elaborate routes, just option routes. Get up the field 5-7 yards, in and out, which way he's leaning, and play pitch and catch, man. He'll be open, I think, all the time.
I totally agree. When ETN was drafted, a really popular comp for him was Alvin Kamara in New Orleans. Mostly because he's so good in space and the contact balance is unbelievable. But I also thought a decent comp for him was DeAndre Swift, just for similar reasons, where he's most dangerous out in space. And so I went back and looked at how Detroit was using Swift out of the backfield when he was with the Lions. And so it's just really Mia's point earlier about having almost the players and not just Trevor, but all other guys like Tank and Travis. I'm kind of holding that carrot out to future head coaches. It keeps coming back to Ben Johnson for me, where he would be so good at being able to see, I've got ETN. This is a mismatch problem, and I'm going to be able to maximize his talents to the best of his ability. And so, that's definitely a really exciting thing to think about. But
if I may, Gus, there is another candidate I know we've talked about who, with a once upon a time anemic Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, was able to rack up 277 yards on the ground last week at New Orleans. That would be one Liam Cohen down in Tampa Bay. But it's fascinating, boys, that as we discuss a Jaguars win, we ultimately do come back to, hey, there are pieces here, but it needs to be with a different coaching staff pulling the strings. And it's a very fascinating juncture in Jaguars history. And look, Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated, Gus mentioned in that same tweet where he talks about dangling the carrot of all this talent, a brand new stadium to come here in Jacksonville, an owner who is willing to spend money at potential head coaches. But he also did note that if Trevor Lawrence continues playing the way he has the last 3 weeks, this team could make an argument for a turnaround. And so that's where it's just such a fascinating juncture, I think, in Jaguars history. So I'm curious, Tommy, to kind of get your take on, does this team have a chance next week against the Green Bay Packers? / is this just, once again, an example of, hey, look, there are pieces here, and they're just showcasing to the rest of the league why if the right front office, general manager, head coach, play caller should come in, this is a prime opportunity for someone.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. But look, man, I don't know. I'm not ready to say goodbye to anybody yet. And to be honest with you, I had to choose. I'm leaning towards the general manager. Something's going on. There's some strife. You can feel it. Why is Mason Smith a healthy scratch? By the way, Doug picks the 48. He picks the playing 48. So he's the one that said he's sitting. I don't know why. I have no idea why. And Graziano, where had he? I know he saw him in camp, but where'd he come from?
Practice squad.
Okay, he's just hanging out on the practice squad. All right, I mean, look, he's out there, whatever. There's something going on there, and you can't have that within an organization, because you can't have the head coach and the general manager fighting over players, who's going to play, who's not going to play, and did you ship Roy? Because why'd you ship Roy? I didn't like Doug's answer. Well, Seattle had a need, so we filled it for him. What kind of crap is that?
So Tommy,
you know what I mean?
To answer that, to answer that, Bucky Brooks did say on Move the Six with Daniel Jeremiah earlier this week that essentially, I mean, I don't want to say he let the cat out of the bag, but hello, puppy. He did say that he didn't like Roy's. There were some there was disagreements with Roy's body language and the buy-in, and that
Okay.
was that.
So
So
he was a
Bucky, who obviously
ish.
I wouldn't say that, but Bucky
Okay.
did say on the record, and obviously Bucky Brooks is our sideline reporter for the
Okay.
Jaguars radio network on 1010XL. And so, look, I mean, I'm going to go off what Bucky says because Bucky has access to Doug Peterson as a former teammate of his that no one else really does. And so the fact that he said that on a national platform says to me that that's ultimately where this thing, at least from the head coach's perspective, had to have been.
Yeah, okay, I see that, but then why scratch Mason?
Correct.
And then
that's where it doesn't make sense.
Or Doug comes out and says, "Hey, these guys were better prepared. I thought they're more ready. He wasn't playing as well, whatever." I guess will believe that. You know what I mean? I don't know if I will. You know what I mean? Because I just think there's something going on between those two. But look, I don't. With this defense, they're not going on any kind of run. That's the concern for me. It's not the offense. I think we do have plenty of talent. Brian Thomas Jr. is just beautiful, man. Come on. And throw him down the middle of the field. Just give him the ball. He is so good. But it works because you can pound the rock, because that play action. And that was a beautiful throw. I'm telling you, Trevor throws in between the numbers, deep. Beautiful, and it's like it's always in the right spot. You get a little outside, it gets a little iffy, but man, he threw a nice ball today to him and to Kirk. That throw to Kirk was really nice too. But
both off of play action. Correct me if I'm wrong. Both off of play action. Who would have thunk? Because play action is created when you are effectively running the ball.
Exactly.
Who would have thunk?
Exactly. So they've got plenty of talent. I've always thought they've had talent. I thought they had talent last year. I always thought it was more attitude than anything. I saw a good attitude today. I saw some fire. And look, I know we can all sit there and be like, it's the Pats, they stink. And you're right. You're right. But even though they stink, they're still NFL athletes. They're still just as big, strong, and fast as our guys. It's still hard to win in the league. You need victories to stack up. It's too bad we didn't get one last week against the Bears. Credit to them for winning, but you take the momentum, you keep it all together, and let's get into Green Bay and let's see if we can make something happen. You're gonna have to, really show up on defense if this team's gonna take a run. And I don't mean consistently. They played with a lot more. I didn't see a lot of mental errors, offsides. You can call them mental errors. I'm more like missed assignments, out of coverage. I mentioned Lloyd already, but I saw a lot of fire. This whole narrative, they quit on. There's no quit today. So I'm pretty happy with what I saw. And look, if they squeaked one out, then I wouldn't be that happy. You know what I mean? If it was like 16-13 down to the wire, they took a field goal, I wouldn't be like, wow, what a win. No, we beat them handily. I thought they were going to creep back in, but they didn't, and we beat them handily, man. All phases did well. And man, if I'm them, I'm feeling good. I'm gonna come home. Looking forward to getting back into the States and into my city and take a day off or so and get ready for Green Bay, man. Because I do believe in momentum. It can be week to week. It's definitely during a game. And when you win, everything's better. Everybody's happy. You can take critique better. You want to do more. It's a wonderful thing. So hopefully they can keep it all together and come back in front of this hometown crowd and give our fans what they deserve, and that's a winning football team. LFG, baby. Let's go. Let's go.
Real quick on Brian Thomas. He became the 5th rookie since 2000 to record 480 plus receiving yards and 4 plus receiving touchdowns in his first 7 NFL games. The other 4 rookies are Jamar Chase, Odell Beckham Jr., Marquise Colston, and A.J. Brown. And so I think that definitely goes with Mia's point about the dangling carrots and Jacksonville having so much talent and maybe the possibility of their talent being even further maximized than we've already seen. But I think what you're saying, Tommy, is like the biggest takeaway to have from today is that even if, like, when Mia and I were doing our Thursday preview show, I was saying that this is by far going to be the worst team that Jacksonville faces this season, but it would only come close if we saw what we saw against the Bears in Week 6, which was that kind of like a little bit of quit from the team, a little bit of a lack of effort and lack of juice. and all of that stuff. But then you saw it again today. And so I think that's the biggest thing to be excited about for next week against the Packers and just moving forward is that it's a week-to-week league in any given Sunday, right? So I think just the fact that they did have that fire back is a really big deal.
Yeah. I was going to say, Brian Thomas Jr. is a different kind of carrot. He's a diamond. He's a gem. That kid.
What's the most positive vegetable you can think of? I mean, a Brussels sprout, like what?
I love Brussels sprouts.
Zucchini. I don't know what, like not a carrot.
Broccoli as well.
Yeah,
broccoli. You're dangling some broccoli, not a carrot.
But he's great. You know, you think about the offensive line, which did well today, but you wouldn't trade Brian Thomas Jr. for anything, would you?
No.
I mean, even if the line stunk, you'd still be like, well, we got him. We'll make the line better next year or something, you know. But at least we got him. You wouldn't give him up for the world. I wouldn't. He's special, man. He is a really special player, in my opinion.
So I want to go back to something you said earlier, Tommy, as we start to kind of put a bow on this program. So obviously it's after a win. So at this juncture, you're not changing anything. You're not coming back from London, and no one's being dismissed. No one is being benched. Unlike our conversation 1 week ago at this very moment.
No one's being benched. I would, because Foyer's coming back. You're gonna have to figure out. So somebody's going to the bench, you know, on passing downs at least.
Okay.
But no, I mean, you're coming off a victory. It was a handily, you know, you beat them handily. There's no need to get rid of anybody right now. It's not going to do any good. It's not, you know. Look, I think the guys came out and played. And they played the game the way they're supposed to play it. Now, who lit that fire? I don't know. Was it just the players? Like I said last week, the players got to do it. You know, did Doug help somehow? Did another assistant coach, you know, finally break free and get on him and, you know, because there was a difference today. I thought they really came out fighting. And so, no, I expect a nice ride home. The owner should be happy because it's a victory and a good victory. And, hey, man, let's pack the house next week and take on those cheese heads. You know, cheese melts. So we'll just crush them. Cheese melts and they crumble. Cheese crumbles. There you go. We're going to just crumble up that cheese, man, and throw it in the St. John River. But,
it's going to be a big test, especially as
big test.
The Jacksonville's defense needs to improve the most for the rest of the season in order to have any kind of chance of making the postseason at this point. And they has to be the best offensive league.
Yeah. I was just going to say, next 5 games are going to tell us a lot about this team. And then we can talk about draft or playoffs.
Building off of that, Tommy, Doug Peterson was asked about handling adversity and compared to previous games, and he said, this is what our team can do. So he believes, thank you, Victor, he believes that what you saw today is who this team is. I can't help but get away from, and I think, you know, again, the next 2 weeks will be extremely telling because you host a Packers team that's going to be coming off of what looks to be at least 12 minutes into it, a dogfight with the Houston Texans. You have to go on the road to Philly. If that can't fire Doug and this team up, then I don't know what can, especially knowing despite an okay start to the year, the headache that Nick Sirianni has quickly become for some in the Philadelphia metropolitan area. We are going to find out a lot about this team. We are going to find out if this comment from Doug of this is what our team can do is actually not just coach speak, and it really is what this team can do, whether that's rallying, you know, in spite of or for what the operation currently is.
Isn't it amazing when execution's there and guys do their jobs and they catch the ball and they make the blocks and they make the tackle? It's all kumbaya, man. Everybody's happy. But they are capable. Now, look, that doesn't mean they can beat every team, but they're capable of playing a kind of game where they do their job and they don't make mistakes. You know, they might make a couple here and there. They weren't perfect today, but that's what we're talking about. I mean, look, coaches can only do, as we all know, they can only do so much, and then it's up to the player. The players execute, everything seems to work out, right? And you feel better, and you want more, and you keep going after it even harder, you know? So, I don't know. It's funny when you do your job, man. You know, like I said earlier, they took care of business in the way they had to, and everybody should feel pretty good about it. And let's just, you know, keep that same kind of mentality, you know, starting the week off. Like, this is big. This is where you could, because, okay, I don't want to call it wishful thinking. Maybe it is. Maybe it's pie in the sky. I wouldn't say Green Bay's, that much, great of a team. They're a very good team. But what if we beat them? What if we beat Green Bay and we go 3-5? Is that going to tell us something? You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it says, you know what? We can maybe put something together here.
I'm gonna defer to Gus on that one. I'm curious if they do beat Green Bay next week. What does that do?
Reedy said, "Let's pray." I think we should switch that to "Let us pray" based on all of our food puns today. But yeah, I don't have a lot of confidence in them getting a win next week. Really, it's more about Green Bay than it is Jacksonville, honestly, because even though, as we've discussed, Jacksonville got their fire back, they've got a lot of playmakers, obviously. This is a team that can win any given Sunday, and this is kind of what Doug Peterson expects from his team, even if they're going against the team that's expected to pick first overall in April. But man, again, the Packers, they're with Jordan Love doing trick shots from the middle of the pocket under pressure. And then Josh Jacobs, I know he doesn't look super efficient in terms of the numbers, but he's been outstanding for them this year in terms of being able to do what Mia was talking about earlier, which is just establishing the run and setting up all the play action passes that Matt LaFleur cooks with. And so I think the Jacksonville Jaguars have especially struggled against play action this year, and the Packers are arguably the best team in the league at it. And so it's definitely not a very good it's definitely like an on-paper strength versus on-paper weakness matchup for Jacksonville. And so it'd be interesting if they're able to overcome that, because if they can overcome that matchup and keep Green Bay to 20 or 25 points and force a turnover or two, then yeah, we'll certainly learn a lot from that.
But you could hurt the QB on the first series and he could be out of the game. So you never know what can happen in a game, Gus, But on paper, you're right. On paper, they in their record, they're a better team. But listen, can they stop our run? That'll be interesting. Can we work it? How I feel about the D. They're going to have to play out of their minds next Sunday for sure. But can they use this and as a stepping stone to get better and fix things that need to be fixed? And I tell you what, I liked Armstead inside today. He had some nice pass rush moves. He got to keep his feet a couple. It was slippery out there, I know, with the rain, but he made some nice moves. You got to see more of Josh Hines Allen. He's making it though. He's getting there. But Trayvon's stealing the show, which is cool.
Which to tie up that loose end, Tommy, officially Trayvon Walker now with 6 sacks. That ties him with Kyle Van Noy for the third most in the National Football League. Of course, Aiden Hutchinson, the league leader at 7.5 entering the week. His season, presumably until maybe the Super Bowl, is done with that broken tibia and fibula. And so Dexter Lawrence and Will McDonald both have 7. Kyle Van Noy and Trayvon Walker both have 6. Of course, 3 of those teams or 3 of those players still have yet to play a complete game this week. And so it'll be something to monitor, though, because if Trayvon Walker, and I understand there will be those who put the asterisk on it and say, well, Aiden Hutchinson was on pace to be the defensive player of the year, but Trayvon Walker is not in a contract year. You can make the argument that maybe they should pay him this offseason because of what we've seen from not just in Jacksonville, but across the league when a first-round pick is playing well and they are entering that 4th year of their rookie contract. You have that conversation when you want to, but it'll be interesting to see, especially I saw more than one person online, to your point, say, what happens if we could get an elite edge rusher opposite Trayvon Walker, which they do in Josh Hines Allen. But yeah, the adding weight in the offseason, Gus, I know you need to unload on this.
It's true. I agree with you.
Josh Hines Allen has had a quiet start to the season, but it'll come back around.
He's getting double teams.
I honestly think he's played better this season than Trayvon Walker, and the slow jokes are kind of funny, but yeah, I expect Josh Hines Allen to start sacking performances sooner than later, and kind of, I don't know, he's not going to be quote unquote gone and disappeared for long. I think he's going to bounce back.
He has looked a little sluggish, though. I mean, there's times where he looks really quick in those short spaces, up on the line. But running, I don't know. I don't know if that weight was good for him. I think he got a little too big. But I agree with you. I think he's going to turn it on. And you know what? It'll be a great time to turn it on starting now. As we go against Green Bay, be a good time to turn it on for everybody. But yeah, listen, I think what's great about Trayvon is, and you mentioned it earlier, Gus, he's becoming a pass rusher. He knows that he can't just bull rush every single time. He knows, listen, if he catches them on their heels, they're going down if he bull rushes them. But they know how to anchor. An anchor is just shoving that back foot, dropping your hips and extending your arms, and you can bull rush me all you want. You're not going to get to my QB before he throws the football. But he's coming up with moves. He's coming up with dips. He's getting around that corner. He's got counter moves. Goes one way, coming back. So I like him. I think he's having a great year. And I want to see more. And I tell you, when Josh gets going too, that tandem, keep Eric inside. I mean, Eric, I tell you, if I'm Eric, like, you watch him swim over these guards effortlessly. I mean, it's just like,
Yeah,
did he
it
even
feels
touch
like
me?
good, right?
Like, why don't you want that every time instead of this, all outside and have to run so far to get to the QB? Just do a little swim. You're 6'8". And, it's like, by the way, you know what I watched yesterday? Sidebar. The wife's out of town, so crank up the TV early in the morning with coffee. Predator. And it was beautiful.
And are you going to make a comparison to a Jaguar player and
Well, the
Predator?
Predator, yeah. Well, Eric Armstead's like big as a Predator, 6'8", long, easy
Oh,
to
man.
swim, man. Just get around that guard, and think about that. Like, you get the outside guys like we're talking about, get him inside. Maybe whoever that fourth guy could be, throw in Lloyd. I mean, you got something there, man. It could that's what we need, because that can keep you in any game if you can get to the quarterback consistently. That can at least give you a chance to keep you in every single game.
Hey,
Once they have time, you're done.
Maybe Mason Smith will be activated for the next one. He can be that fourth guy, but we shall see. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't think we should look too far ahead, because as Tommy is saying, a win is a win. It was definitely a convincing win too, at least, and they won by multiple scores. And so I'm going to do what Tommy's doing, go outside and enjoy the day. I suggest everyone else should. Mia, you got any other parting thoughts before we get out of here?
If I come up with any, they will be included in my upcoming quick hits driven by Arlington Toyota, which will be filmed here momentarily before I go enjoy the rest of a beautiful Victory Sunday here in Duval County.
That's right.
All right, Tom, Mia, thank you guys for joining.
All right, guys, thanks. Great job. Go Jags.
For joining. Go Jags. We'll be back on Duval Rundown at noon on Tuesday. So until then, everyone, Tommy's already out. He's got to go take care of the dog and enjoy the sunshine. But yeah, we'll see you guys on Tuesday. Thank you.